What is your name? What is your current job title, position, and how long have you been in this role?
Hi, yes. Well, my name is Gabriel Casco, and I'm the Senior System Solutions Engineer for Sony PSLA. That means Sony Latin America.
What type of preparation did it take to be hired and successful in this position?
Well, I started working in the broadcast industry because the job is about broadcasting. I work in the professional area for broadcast, and we sell equipment to TV stations in Latin America. So, first of all, I'm an electronics engineer, and I graduated in 2007, and I started working in the broadcast area in a company that worked for radio broadcast. They produced equipment for radio stations like mixers and audio equipment. Same thing, but for radio. So I was there for about 6 years. And after 6 years, I was looking for something a little bit new, and the position opened up in Sony, and I applied. And thanks to the background I had in the broadcast industry, they were able to look at me and my experience, and they considered me for the position at Sony, which is broadcast is television, but it's very similar to what I did before. So, um, yeah, I think that's what gave me a little bit the edge over the competition, that I had experience in broadcast, specifically in radio. So, that's,
Okay.
I think, what they chose me.
Okay. And do you work in a team or independent environment? Think of how does this style impact your work as well.
Well, it's a small team. It's the solutions department. So in broadcast, you have like cameras, equipment, things you can touch, and then you have what you call systems. So systems are the entire group of equipment which people use in television stations to put broadcast signals in the air. So the systems is a little bit different than selling a camera. Um, with that in mind, our team is just two people, me and my manager, and we handle all the systems products. And we work in a team, but we tend to work very independently, meaning we do similar things, but we work separately because I travel a lot since the market is Latin America. Our customers are all over Latin America, and we can't cover the entire area with just two people, so we have to spread out a lot. So I go with sales guys to different areas in Latin America, and for example, say there's a project in Argentina and there's something similar going on in Paraguay. My boss will go to Paraguay and I'll go to Argentina. So we're basically selling the same product as a team, but we have to work independently. So when you work independently, there's usually a lot of pressure because everyone back in Japan is looking at what you're doing, looking at your results, but you're working out in the field by yourself, meaning you're in the country, you're representing Sony, but you're working by yourself. So that puts a lot of pressure and makes you grow a lot because you're like the face of the company when you're in front of everybody. Um, and then, of course, there's parts of the job where you work in team, like with people from the company at the same time. When you go to trade shows, when you're in the office, where you go as a team and talk to customers. So usually it's harder when you're by yourself because you're in front of the customers and you take all the responsibility. So what it's difficult because you have to be properly trained. But that's the hardest part. When you're in a team, it helps you a lot. It goes a lot easier because you can like tag team talk with your colleagues, and they talk to a customer at the same time, and you're like working in a team, and it's a lot easier. So you get a little bit of both.
Okay. And what do you like most about your job?
Well, being that it is systems, even though we sell products that are relatively always the same, every project is always different. For example, what I do is archiving systems for TV stations, and the products are the same, but the way they're implemented is always different. So when you get to a customer, which is a TV station, you have to understand what they're doing, what their workflow is, how they move files, how they move videos in their station, and you have to, as an engineer, think how you're going to integrate your product into that system. So it's always different. It's not just repeat everything exactly the same. Every customer you get to is a new set of people, and it's a new challenge. There's always little things that are always going to be different. I've never had two projects that are the same. So that's basically what I like. Everything, it's always a new challenge. It's always different. It's never repetitive. It never gets old.
Okay, and what do you like least about your job?
Well, my previous job was a small company. There were very few employees, and it was easy to get certain things done. Right now, a very large corporation, it's a lot more difficult to do very simple things. That's probably one of the things I like the least is there's a lot of bureaucracy in doing very simple office tasks. Like for example, my previous company, you would have a new product that came in and I wanted to test it. I would just walk to the warehouse, grab it, and put it on my desk and try it. Doing it now at Sony, it's extremely difficult to get something moved from the warehouse to the office for us to test. It requires me walking around with a form, and I have to get it signed by the president, the vice president, the director of marketing, the accounting people, the finance people approving that it's going to be moved from one place to another. And it can take me sometimes a week or two just to get something into the office. So that's probably the most annoying part, where you get very bureaucratic processes for something very simple in a large company.
Okay. Um, what was your major in college?
Electronics and electrical engineering.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And in your path to your degree in college, what was the career path that it took you to this current job? Please describe your career path.
Well, it's interesting because I started doing industrial engineering first, and when I began, found out I really didn't like certain parts of that part of the engineering. Then I switched to telecommunications, and then I went to electrical, which is pretty much what I like. And as you know, there's a very wide variety of things you can do with electrical engineering, and I kind of sort of just fell into this job as I got my first job straight out of college in the radio broadcast industry. And I've always liked audio. It's something I enjoyed. That's why I took it. But I kind of just fell into that. And after working at it, I found out that I really liked it. I just kept at it, and it led me to where I am today.
Okay. And what advice would you give someone considering this field?
Well, first of all, you have to be sure that you like it. Most of what you're going to learn in school, you're going to use maybe 10 to 15% of what you learn. But there's a lot of theory involved in learning that you really have to understand to then do your job properly. You're not actually going to be, unless you're working in a very specific field, like here in the States, there are some companies that do research and development and develop products like from zero, but most companies here, especially in South Florida, do not make products. They're all designed somewhere else and they're manufactured somewhere else. So first of all, you have to make sure you like what you're doing. You have to understand what subject you're going to look at. You have to make sure you're going to enjoy it, because even though you're not going to be designing them, you have to understand them in depth to do your job properly. So, and you have to also look at what type of companies you're going to work for. Think if you're an electrical engineer, for example, you have to see it's probably going to be something in electronics, in the consumer electronics business. Here in Orlando, let me think, you probably have companies like Siemens, NASA is nearby. You have in Miami, you have Sony, you have Microsoft, you have those sorts of companies that are the places you could possibly work at when you graduate. But you have to see what type of work you're going to do. If you're doing electronics, you're going to be looking at electronic products and see the products you're going to be selling and see if that's something you like.
Okay.
And just get into it, basically.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Hello, my name is Daniel Spear, and I feel that my purpose is to be an engineer. So far, the career path that I've taken, aligns with my purpose and my educational path because, according to the counselors that I've spoken with, provided me with information about the classes that I should take and add them to what I've already had selected on taking over the next 2 years. After I graduate from Valencia, I should have no problem getting accepted in the engineer college in UCF. Um, Now, if you're interested in following the same career, you have to make sure you take all the math um, that you can in Valencia. Otherwise, you would have to pay a lot more than what those classes cost in Valencia College, and also it will be a lot harder. Um, the professional that I just interviewed, his name is Gabriel Casco. His title is Senior System Solutions Engineer for PSLA Systems Solutions for Sony. After 6 years of working for a radio broadcasting company, he landed an opportunity to work for Sony, and he has been there for a little over 2 years now. And what he does at Sony is basically cover the Latin American market by traveling to sell archiving systems for TV stations. He has to understand how their system works and how he's going to integrate Sony's product to the TV station system. Mr. Casco did not take the path that I expected because he changed majors 3 times before he chose what kind of engineering he liked. He went from industrial engineering to telecommunications to finally choosing electrical engineer. He did, though, take the path that I hypothesized as best because at the end he realized what was his calling. I'm taking the path to graduate as an electrical engineer to work as a sales engineer. And the reason why I chose this path is because I want to work with the type of technology. Now, who knows? Later on, sometimes something like what happened to Mr. Casco will happen to me. And if it does, it will be okay as long as I graduate from what I've loved to do. I think the path he took is common. From what I researched, people tend to change majors often early in college. And the advice that I received from Mr. Casco was to make sure that I like what I do and what I choose to do. Make sure that what I do I enjoy it, and also I should start researching what type of companies I would like to work for, because that will also help me in selecting what type of engineering I would like to pursue. After this informal interview with Mr. Casco, I still want to pursue this career, and yeah, thank you very much.